Let's see. 4 o'clock. Everybody here, let's see. Miss Shope.
Hi, how are you today?
I'm good. There'll be some others following in. I don't know where they're dragging their feet. Dave will be here. Apparently he was here and now he's not, but I'm sure he'll be back. Um,
Okay,
how's your day?
I'm fantastic. I'm preparing to take my daughter to Disney, so we are out and about and I'm in the car, so that's why I don't have the video on today, but it's lovely to connect with you.
You too. Some point soon, we should spend some more time, and I want to hear about your experience in Shasta.
Yeah,
I've been there often enough that I know what to expect. And this year was the first year that I went back for a conference, and I had made the decision to take a group of people up to the area that I'd found, energetic vortexes. I had in the past, but I'd taken like two. This year, they wanted to make it a workshop, and I had real reservations about taking that many people there because it only takes one low vibration to affect the entire
yes,
group. And then you've just killed the whole purpose for everybody. So I had to let go of that idea. And in the end, the target was, I think we were going to have a dozen people, including myself. And there were a few more than that the first day. And then the second day, I think there were a few more than that, but that was because a few of the people that had gone the day before wanted to come again.
yeah,
And there was purposes for that. That was the last day I was on the mountain. I heard afterwards and saw reports that then they had taken other people up to those areas. And
yes,
my hope was that all I can do is just take you there. I can't tell you you're going to have my experience. It's likely you won't. You're going to have your own miraculous, whatever experience you're going to experience. Whatever's meant for you is going to be meant for you. So I let that go too, and just hope that they did. Well, I heard reports from people that were there afterwards. It was nice to get good feedback that went back to the organizer. But when they shared with me what had actually happened, hold on just a second. Let me let Steve in. There we go. Okay. Um, then I got some details on what had really taken place. Hey, Steve, we're just getting caught up a little bit. And part of those experiences were one of the first things that had drawn me to that area in the first place was shadows that were cast there. And to me, it looked like they could have been cave openings. So imagine my surprise when I took this group there, and a few of them were, wandering off on their own, find their own little vortexes. I'll be damned if somebody didn't find a little cave right above where I had always been. Okay, so that was cool to take pictures from the inside out because that was new to me. And again, it didn't matter whether people thought I was leading them to this place. Every time I take somebody there, I get as much out of it as they get out of it. And that's the juice for me. Elisa, I saw YouTube yesterday that she had posted with Tracy, another girl that was there. And the story was that they they shared their entire journey from where they were. I think one was in Virginia, one was in Pennsylvania, and made their way across the country through Denver, through Barstow, through Yosemite, and then eventually they made their way to Shasta. And it wasn't like they didn't have synchronicities all the way there. They did. And they, were telling the stories and articulating. Everyone had pictures of phenomenal things like at Bryce Canyon, in the Queen's Garden, in an area that I know really well. And so when they described what they saw, showed me pictures of it. I went, yep. Now somebody else sees it for what it is. Then, as wonderful as the whole rest of the trip was that led up to actually getting into Shasta, which you know well now, magic just uncorked itself there in ways that no one was prepared for. You can't script it. You can't plan for any of those things when it's your turn. You're tapped on the shoulder and showing you the kind of magic that you would hope that you were always going to be able to see. So, oh my goodness, it was crazy. One other girl, Shana, no, it wasn't Shana, it was Deva. And Deva, you could read on her that she was connected to, higher sensitivities, to other energies. Just her aura just gave that off. She didn't have to say anything. You just knew that she was settled in this energy. There were two instances that she had had. One, she had that first day that we went there, and she was one of those people that wandered off. She saw a being and sketched it in a notepad. And so she was one of the people that came the next day. Well, she brought the sketch pad the next day. And when she showed me what she sketched, it looked like Alex, like the guy I had seen. So, take that for what it's worth. She had stayed a few days after I had. And I've been to a place called Pluto's Cave at least 4 or 5 times. It's worth the trip every time I go there. But she went in. Now you have to remember that this is a real cave. It's a lava tube, and it goes on for a ways. So there are parts of it that, unless you either have your phone and its flashlight on, or you've had the forethought to bring flashlights with you, it's dark. It's dangerous in some places because the rocks are... Dave, I can't answer the phone because I'm in a meeting right now. Sorry, guys. My window just popped up here indicating that I was getting a phone call. So, dang it. Where did my video go? Where did Zoom go? There we go. Sorry about that. Anyhow, Deva had taken photographs in there. And she's certainly been around light orbs and that type of thing. And I have now been in a place where I've been around it, mostly outdoors. I had not seen any phenomenon like this inside. But what she did show me, and the pictures were amazing, were the densest concentration and the most colorful light orbs I have ever seen. I asked her if she'd share the photos with me because I'm starting to be the storehouse of extraordinary phenomena that people keep sending me to show to others. And oh man, it's just crazy. The stuff that I get sent and the things I get to see are pretty amazing. This was one of the most remarkably extraordinary things I've seen. And about a week before, I'd been at a location, some friends that have some property in McLeod that's near there. And Jamie is an intuitive and has recorded many times that type of light orb phenomenon on her property. So we were invited. They've set up a yurt on the property now. They have plans to build some others. So we actually stayed on the property, and we invited some other people in the area. So there was maybe 9 of us that night. So we, did a little CE5 event. Nobody was disappointed. Oh yeah, we saw craft moving in the sky. And then the pictures that Jamie shared with us of the phenomenon that she had photographed while we were all sitting there, you could sense when you were sitting there changes in sensations. Almost like there was almost, I want to say, like a cool bubble came by you. And then when you saw these photographs of cool bubbles that went by you, that's unmistakable that that kind of thing happened. So that's enough backstory on that. Now, Ms. Schulp, maybe you can share a little bit of your Shasta experience with us. Patricia, this is Dave. Dave, you
Hi,
come
Dave.
up with Samsung SM699U. You might want to change the label on your phone, my love.
Hi, Patricia.
Hi. Lovely to connect. I was guided to this call tonight. I went out to Mount Shasta. I work for a company called Conscious Infinity. I am a spiritual teacher and coach.
Great.
And we took 19 students out to Mount Shasta. We knew it was going to be remarkable either way, but not really anticipating. There was so much that happened. I couldn't even describe it in an hour call, but we did go into Pluto's cave. We took the students up to as far as we could reach on the top of Mount Shasta. We went out at about midnight, and everyone had just remarkable experiences. We went to the headwaters. I had the students go and collect water from the headwaters every morning, but I had a remarkable experience at the end of the journey by myself by the headwaters, and I was getting visions. I'm a psychic intuitive. I believe everybody's psychically intuitive, and it's just for point of reference, so to speak, but I was getting visions of Talos and Lemurian beings prior to even going. And it became very intense. And then, and sometimes, I always, I don't want to question. I've had so many experiences on my awakening path and my ascension journey, but this was a bit more intense, I guess, because it was coming the whole way when I was driving into Mount Shasta from the airport, and then the dreams and the visions I was having during retreat. And then the last day, of course, I encountered, what I would say is like definitely a being, and it was a sacred experience. I felt like I've got activations, downloads, information that I needed. But I have a call now that is so strong to Mount Shasta that I felt like I haven't left, and I'm back in Pennsylvania, New Hope, PA. And the calling is so strong. I actually Googled it last night, and I'm very guided on my journey. And they said I'm going to connect with somebody who had a strong experience there. And that was last night. And then I found Lowell last night, and then he was holding the meeting today. So that's how the synchronicities worked up. That's how I ended up here tonight. And it's nice to connect with others that have the experience, because it's exciting, but it's also when you kind of like when you come back to reality, so to speak. And I come back to my third dimensional life, which I state, because I'm a mom and I still do my spiritual work, but I just have an intense calling to go back out there. I'm not sure what my next steps are from here because it's fairly new, but I know I was directed here for a reason. So that's why I'm here tonight. So that was my experience, but it was quite remarkable. So thank you for letting me
Was that your
share.
first trip to Mount Shasta?
Yes, it was my first trip to Mount Shasta.
And what motivated you to go there in the first place?
We hold retreats for our company. So I work with a doctor, and she has over 1,000 students that are on the awakening path. That they come in, they join the journey, and they get certified as the energy healer and life coach. And it was for the class. So we took the class out, and it was already set in place. I had a calling to Mount Shasta a year prior. So I went along, everything aligned for me to go with, but I was not anticipating everything that happened. I anticipate we're very high vibrational. The class is very high vibrational. So I knew we'd have a great time, but I really didn't expect all the magic that happened within that week. It felt like home, and it felt like the vibrational patterns out there are so incredibly high. It's almost like, getting thrown back into reality in a very, I don't want to say it's harsh, but it's like, wow, it's just completely different when I get home. I'm trying to maintain the vibration here, trying to hold the frequency as I get back here, but it's just a completely different frequency out there than it is in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, the ley lines are a lot different too. So you're going to have to remember that. And there's no fighting the powerful frequencies from Gaia. And though you're bringing that frequency home and you're meditating on that resonance, remember that as those earth ley lines change and you go past them, it changes the way that the frequency or the vibration feels, but it'll still be there. It just changes it because you're in a different electromagnetic region. And it's fabulous. It's a fabulous experience. I'm so happy to hear that you've really connected. Are you feeling like maybe you want to figure out a way to stay there for a longer period of time?
Yes, I've been called to start retreats out there. I'm actually looking for property. I'm guided to look for properties and either start hoarding more retreats to do something. I'm just not how that's going to sort out. So I know I've already, yeah. I'm trying to sort that all out. I have no idea how that's going to work, but yeah,
well,
so definitely want to hold more retreats.
There's a funny thing about that. They tend to work themselves out. There's an old saying in Scotland, what's for you won't go by you. And so it'll happen. And it's fascinating. I'm a contactee. I've been in physical contact with sentient species from off this planet And every time I'm with them, because they do visit me in my bedroom and then they do arrange to meet me outdoors, I always feel homesick. And, you know, I never really I couldn't really completely cognate the idea of a star family, but they did take me to Taurus in 2017. And the thing is that when they leave us, you get the same feeling of homesickness and you miss them, you miss your family. And it's really interesting that you were actually having that very powerful experience, because Lowell is the person to talk to. He's been inside the mountain. And I think that what's happening right now is that for people that are genuinely resonating at the right vibration, they are very interested in communicating with you. As my experience with Beyond Earth Sentience becomes more cogent and more aware, one of the things that they've revealed to me is that they are really happy to have conversations with us when we recognize them. And they love being with us because we help them connect to different myriad aspects of our shared destiny and our shared prehistory and our shared genetic history. And so there's an exciting time for all of us, and we have to allow ourselves complete sort of let yourself go and go with it 100%. And when you do that, then it's almost like they will introduce you to some sort of psychic trigger or psychic download, so that whenever you think of them, if they reveal a name to you, then if you think of that name, you never know, they might just pop into your head and start talking. And it's a beautiful thing. People on my end of the thing, I mean, I'd sure like to go to Talos, and I'd love to have the experience you had. But it's different for me because I spent a lot of my time thinking about the cosmos. And I noticed that you mentioned this dimension. And I'm a mathematician and a physicist, but I'm also a hippie, and I have a degree in astrophysics. It's a master's. And I spent a lot of time studying the mainstream version of what dimensionality is. And I have a lot of intuition about transdimensionality and higher dimensions. And I was speaking, I'll shut up in a second. I was speaking with Becca B, who does sacred geometry. She's also a very powerful psychic. She's up in Washington, and she has a big group of people that she works with. Everyone's waking up en masse. But when I spoke to Becca about dimensionality, I sent her an email and I asked her to remember that we are corporeal beings with a soul that's been placed inside of it. And there's a lot of people who are very, very excited about attaining other dimensions, the fourth, the fifth, the sixth, you know, becoming a bodhisattva at the end of our life, or perhaps not rejoining the cycle of rebirth because we finally learned the lessons we're supposed to learn. But I wanted to ask people to think about the dimensionality that they exist in, because our dimension, which is full of animals and beautiful geologic structures and beautiful botanical biology and beautiful ocean biology, that don't be in too much of a rush to vibrate to a higher dimension when we need to fix the one that we're living on by having less of an impact on it. And the more I talk to my friends who live on another planet or spend most of the time on a ship, they've sort of reassured me that if I wanted to go, if there was a cataclysm, they would take me, but that they wanted me to talk to people about not rushing off this planet, and to remember that everything that's on this planet, stones, pools of water, dry grass, leaves, octopus, an ant, everything is alive. All trees are alive, and everything that comes from Gaia has a right to exist and creates the balance and the harmony of Gaia. and that humans in the third dimension need to start thinking more about how we impact the planet just by our physical presence. And the dimensionality, I'm sure, changes, doesn't it, Lowell? If you go inside the mountain, it's a different place.
This is a good segue, because Patricia was talking about the differences that she's experiencing now when she went to visit Telos or Shasta, and she went home and she's trying to hang on to that same feeling. Well, here's where it took me a few trips to Shasta to really become aware of how palpable that energy really is. And when you start to experience magic, those are dimensional experiences, guys. We know that. So you already have 1 foot in the next dimension because you've experienced it, you've articulated it, and you got 1 foot in this one. And that's the hard one to come back to, right? We have these wonderful, cool experiences that we know are magic. And we just want that to continue our lives. We have to go back to the third, dimensional element of it, traffic and noise, and you can't find peace enough to find that quiet spot to connect to, Gaia with again. That's all you crave. That's all you want to do. But it goes beyond that. And so now that we've all sensed that palpable energy, that's all we want. So now, boys and girls, that you have that frame of reference, now you get to choose whether you're done learning these 3D lessons and that your cycle is over and that you're ready to ascend because you've had a taste of it already. You wouldn't be here today and you wouldn't be amongst the tribe and the people in your orbit that are there now if you didn't vibrate at the same level and knew that you were ready to ascend to. And it's not, again, was never contingent on it was going to take enough human souls to come together to be 51% and just push, Gaia to her next level. We all know that the Earth was in a cosmic cycle long before our little corporeal asses got here in this incarnation. Right. We're just avatars. That was a really good point to make. And yes, our souls carry so much more than we even remember right now. But it's amazing to watch it all kind of wake up and not think that something profound isn't happening. And that the things that I seem to know that I didn't learn from anybody else, how does all that happen? Well, I have a better frame of reference for all of it now. And I understand, what downloads really means and what that has. I've met other remarkable people like Dave. If I let Dave take over the rest of this, he would fill us with new knowledge on things that are remarkable. But Dave would be the first one to tell you that as he was growing up, he was not a math student, wasn't interested in it. It wasn't me. But when he found his niche and he knew what it was that he wanted to understand and his connection with higher intelligence already and that kind of entity, they gave him whatever downloads he needed to be a freaking PhD and hanging around with physicists and people of the intellectual quality that work at SpaceX and NASA and places like that. That just doesn't happen in a human environment. In my mind, there's no path of knowledge that you can find to satisfy the amount of information that Dave has ingested. And since my journey started, over what's happened in the last 2 years, since right before I went into Telos, my command of lots of other information that I got no business knowing is there for me. And it's not just me. I don't say these things to point out what I can do. I say these things because I'm beginning to recognize it in others. And that's the cool part of all of this, is that the tribe, again, is finding everybody. So when we want answers, we want to find a touchstone for someone that can help me understand what I'm going through. Even if you might not have gone through it, we're just trying to find people that are open-minded enough that they're willing to listen to my exploration without judgment. because they know somehow along the line here in, the universal fabric, that my story was supposed to plug in the way that it did. And until it did, that part of the whole collective journey wasn't going to be complete. That was my contribution. Now, I make those choices just like you do. We're all sovereign beings, free will. Those are the qualities that make us cool and unique as human beings. And when we get our higher dimensional abilities back, watch what emotion and creativity and that level of technical information, watch what a powerhouse we get to be and what humanity is. We still need to be mindful of the lessons that we learned more in Atlantis than Lemuria. But there were certainly phenomena that I don't want to dwell on negative things that got us here, but we'd be foolish to move forward and not recognize that they were here. We got into this mess somehow. And it took us eons to figure out our way out. And it wasn't that we did. Earth's in a cycle and she's about to boost into higher consciousness. We were just smart enough to come here at a time when we recognized that we could also rise with her. We just had to match our vibration. And that was the mystery. How do we find the key to that information? How do we find the information in the first place? How did I even know there was a key I had to have? And then once I knew what that was, how do I get it and how do I use it? Those are all the things that it looks like we're all on accelerated tear rate to get it. And look at the people around us that keep showing up. Listen to Patricia's story. It's a rather fresh one, but it's very similar to, yours and mine, Dave.
Patricia, I have a question for you.
Sure.
When did you first recognize your personal psychic abilities?
I've had them since birth, and then I shut them down through trauma. I had my awakening 10 years ago. I kept it very private, and I started energy work very privately. Everything was downloaded to me. It literally, looking back now, everything was like, it was like the reawakening on the DNA level and the cellular level, and then of course connecting in with other beings, other galactic beings, in the dream state, in the astral realm, started astral traveling, to coming into my own once I found the academy that I work for, where we now have we have people coming in on levels I've never seen before, talking about these experiences. It's exciting, and I teach it like twice a week, and to have 20 to 30 people on a call on rotation coming in, talking about their experiences, the awakening process, how a lot of them feel a call too. Like I feel many of us have a call, a remembrance, and a knowing that we're here to help Gaia at this time. Sometimes it's hard, I think, in the 3D, but the more we vibrate higher, the more we impact and the more we activate our light bodies that reside within us and our DNA, that we're impacting the people in our environment. That's why I know it's important for me to maintain the frequency of Shasta here in Pennsylvania, because I do know that as a pillar, I start to impact. I can impact somebody at the grocery store just because we're ignited as these in the frequency. To me, it's I think everybody's psychic, so I don't like to use that word so much. I feel like it's just innate. I do believe that we can get into telepathy. I've already done it with several people, and it's becoming a bit more intensified, I guess, as I go on my journey. My manifestation rate has become extremely rapid, and I teach it too because I know we can all manifest, and that's a beautiful part of the creation. But to me, there is a bigger calling within inside of myself and within with what I teach. And then also knowing that the information that I've been getting from, of course, what I would say is either galactic beings from, connected into source, you can call it source consciousness, has higher consciousness levels of information that I've been getting, probably a bit similar to what you might be receiving in your journeys as well. But then to be able to connect with others that have had similar experiences, it does make it feel like home, and it's a little bit, that's probably a bit expanded, but I think it's important to share that information. I also went into the art shop downtown in Mount Shasta. I don't know if any of you have went into that. The blue,
Which one?
I think it's the Blu-ray, the Star Seed.
Haruko's shop?
Yes.
Yeah, Haruko, she's very cool.
Yes, we know Haruko quite
very,
well.
very cool chick.
Okay. I went in there.
We know her.
Yes, and when I went in there, that remembrance hit me so hard, I broke down in tears in the meditation room because I do. I feel
sacred
such a
geometry,
connection.
boy.
Yeah.
Sacred geometry creates mathematic vibrations when you take information in through your ocular system. When you look at light and when you look at shapes, they travel down your optic nerve and they go to what's called your parietal lobes. From there, they are cognated, and your parietal lobes send that light information and the refractory information from geometry down what's called the diencephalon, where that information is delivered to the appropriate regions of your brain so that you have storage or higher cognition. And so her geometry has a lot of those triggers which cause that cognition and those neural transmissions to occur pretty rapidly. So her stuff's pretty amazing.
Yeah,
I
it
had
was
that
pretty
same
powerful.
experience, Patricia, the first time I went back in that room. And it was the first time I went in there and kind of sized it up. It was the first day I had arrived in Shasta, and I wasn't going to spend the time there. But when I went back a couple days later and found that treasure trove, the same thing hit me. I wanted to spend time in there to study those and take them in. And so I had asked permission to meditate back there in the room, and I came out of there in tears.
Yes, it was very powerful, and there's such a remembrance. And I have a sense that you both might resonate on this too, because the terminology, the Galactic Federation of Light, has come to me many times over the year without resonance or without any knowing of that. And then the High Angelic Council, I get that a lot in my dream state and things that come to me. And that hit me really hard when I went into that meditation room. And it was a vibrational frequency and pattern. And when I came out, and I said, I want to go home. And she's like, I know, we all feel this way when you come out, right? And I said, I know I'm here. She's like, we're here to help Mother Gaia too. I'm like, I know. I said so. But it is pretty profound to connect with all these amazing people now. And I've been doing it for years, but to see it on that level, it really impacted me really hard, because it's like just to walk into a shop and feel that the Blu-ray and the star seeds and feeling that connection, it's powerful. And then to see the change that we are creating, in Mount Shasta, and to see, like, to me, it definitely is a different frequency. It's a different dimensional frequency, which I have experienced too. When I first had my awakening, I was on, and I think there's multiple dimensions, multiple realities. I'm very big with that. I believe that we can fluctuate, like you said, 1 foot in the 3D, and we got 1 foot in the higher realms. For 2 years, I was in this magical world that was like heaven on earth. And I guess some people would state that that's the 5D frequency, I guess. But it felt like I had opened different portals and different things were happening in my life that were absolute magic. I did have a breakup that happened. Unfortunately, my frequency went down after that. But then to hear other people having those experiences, and then to be able to feel that again in Mount Shasta, but at a higher frequency, was amazing. And I definitely, I know you already know the experience, but it was so profound to me to know that this is all real and that it's happening, and that we're connecting with our soul tribe, and I call it, our ground crew or whatever, to make this, come into fruition, so that we are carrying on our missions as what I believe that we incarnated to do on this planet this time, and for the awakening process.
I would
Correct.
encourage you,
Yeah, absolutely.
you were kind of skipping over your experience as though we'd had our own. I think it's important for us to express, especially Shasta. Every time I hear somebody else's experience of it, it just wakes mine up again. And I know mine was different and theirs was different, and I appreciate theirs for different reasons. So don't stop yourself from articulating. We all hunger to hear who else had an awesome experience.
That's amazing. I love that. Yeah, because I do teach it, and I teach a lot, but I'm very mindful, because some of the people that are coming into the class, they're just waking up. So I'm not trying to bring them into fear or to scare them out of their experience. So I am mindful when I have higher level dimensional experiences to kind of keep it inward. So thank you for allowing me the space to share, because I know it's sacred, I know it's special, and then to connect with others that have the similar experiences, it's so beautiful. So I definitely extend my deepest gratitude for allowing me the space to share tonight.
We're all on the journey. We're all supposed to be allowers. I'm an observer. I'm here to watch what's going on and make my reports to the Akashic records later on. In the meantime, I'm supposed to just allow everyone else to be themselves. It's not my business. I got my hands full living this life right here. And I'm not in a position to judge anybody else. It's amusing for me to watch, but what input I'm supposed to have for others, they'll ask and they'll invite me to give it. In the meantime, I'm just going to watch, and that's it. It's not to me to do anything else for anybody else unless I'm invited. And that's the way I like to live and think that people have a respect for me in the same way. Those were the souls that were placed here in the first place. Forget what happens when you don this 3D little biosuit here and you play by all these rules. This was always an experiment. Nobody ever told us that. Wasn't in any of the curriculum, any of the schooling that I had come across. But later on, that reality kind of came around and, kind of socked me upside the head that no, we were sovereign beings long before this. If I really believe that I am a spark of source and that I'm here to help the universe evolve, my job is I signed up for some lessons. In 3D, there are going to be some good ones and there are going to be some bad ones. And it's my job to just report back after I've learned them. And then I get to choose whether I want to reincarnate again and learn some more, and or whether I'm ready to ascend. Well, we know that here on Earth, you have got to be able to sense it, even if you don't understand what I'm saying, that there's certainly enough phenomenon going around. You know that something is changing, whether the government's telling us about it or not, whether there's even enough people that are not ignorant to the situation that's going on. And ignorance it's stupidity. It's just people aren't aware of the things that we've never been taught before until our wherewithal comes back to us. And now that we have it, it's just our obligation to share it. Now, I'm not trying to change people's opinions. I know what it took for me to get here and all the things I had to satisfy for myself to believe this. I did lots of due diligence, guys, and I came to these conclusions. So for others that have come to the same conclusions, I can help be kind of a sounding board, as you'll be for me, because we're still not done perfecting these little lessons that we learned before we get to the place where we don't have to deal with this anymore. And it's closer than we think. We feel it. If you're watching all of the solar phenomenon that's been going over the last few days and it's going to extend into G3 levels the day after tomorrow, there's another reason why we feel the way that we feel right now. We're electromagnetic beings. There's electromagnetic enhanced photon plasma coming in our direction that has been coming at us for a while now. It's preparing our physical beings for the crystalline patterns that it's going to launch into, and it's making the changes in Earth's physical being for her to ascend to the next level. I see this as, it's like a balloon going through a membrane. And once you get to this level, you can't pass through the membrane unless your vibration matches that which is above it. If it does, then you move past the membrane and you continue to enjoy all of the other things around you that vibrates at the same level. But if you're vibrating lower, guess what? You don't never penetrate through the, you don't get through that little dipole. And so you're stuck. Now, however you want to translate that, you die, you reincarnate, however you see that recycling, 3D doesn't exist on Earth anymore. There are other 3D experiences for you to have elsewhere in the galaxy, but you'd have to have enough open-mindedness to understand that the galaxy is out there in the first place, other than somewhere on Star Trek. That it's a real thing out there, and that there are real beings around us, and that it's no longer a question of pointing up in the sky, seeing some lights move up there and thinking that, there's connectivity with something out there. When I had my experience, it was a whole different kind of reality check. When news got out and I started to share my experience and I heard about contactees, I was trying to figure out, what slot do I find myself in? Because I didn't certainly see myself as, I'm not a UFO contactee. Well, I was a different kind of contactee, but from a whole different perspective. that I have had contact, not with someone who came here off planet, somebody that's been here on the planet longer than we have, and is just resides in a different dimension, waiting for everything else to catch up so that we can all kumbaya again together, because that's the plan. Any feedback? Steve, you've been quiet.
Sorry?
Any
Hey.
feedback?
Well, I
It's
felt
Dave.
like I got enough stage time last time. So
There we go. Look at this.
I
Yeah,
didn't
but
plan
that
on being
doesn't-
the star
You
last
get to
time. I
have
was
a
just
different
gonna be like
opinion on a
guy the
different
phone.
day.
So I'm just trying to lay back. So I bought your book after last time. I had a good read. That was fun. And
lot.
I bought a Andara. So I'm going to get a couple of Andaras that should be here tomorrow.
Wow, good for you.
I'll find out. Once I get a hold of them and feel them, I'll figure it out. So a lot going on with that, you know. Otherwise, all good, like really good. So
Good.
yeah.
I'd love to see pictures of your Andaras when you get them.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm sorry, I've forgotten your guest name. Was it David?
David,
Hi, David. So I'm
you
Steve
can just
Turner.
call him Samson.
Yeah. So I'm an aerospace engineer, and I used to have a company that worked with a lot of the same guys that you probably worked with.
Well,
we
you know,
did
it's
space
funny.
qualified hardware.
Well, I'm
Yeah.
I'm specialized in optical physics,
Okay.
and I'm a bit of a theoretician, but right now I'm consulting with some people that have just left SpaceX because we're trying to start our own tech company,
Okay.
and I'm designing a stellar cartography program and also a higher mathematics program, which reduces equations and formula into single symbols so that we can teach AI a little bit faster. Because right now we're looking at 500 billion different physics equations that exist on the planet, and it increases exponentially to about 1 to the power of 10 each year. And so if you look at the 11 branches of physics, each one of those discoveries that we make as a physicist or as a math theoretician sort of goes down that fractal well and reveals yet other aspects of itself, so that you can sort of get tunnel vision and stay focused on one particular aspect of physics and produce new equations and new theorem from that one aspect. And that unfolds into more. I mean, when we tried to develop the bomb, look what all the offshoots were from radiology and radio sciences and subatomic particle sciences. It just came from the guys down at Alamogordo and Enrico Fermi and those guys. See what happened after they opened up that box and how that spiraled off into a million directions, didn't it? So what I'm trying to do right now is develop a comprehensive computer language that reduces the nomenclature of formulas so that we can transfer vast amounts of physics information in a way that can be decollapsed later by the computer if there's any question about it. And I'm working on a interesting program right now with a Japanese physicist. I can't say his name, but what we're trying to do is create a static light image that doesn't have side lobe light waste or replicative fade, almost like a hologram that we can transmit. And it's pretty unusual stuff.
Cool.
So I've had to set some of my other goals and my things aside, because when I got my MSc in astrophys, I didn't know that I would be so excited to spend all my time with PhDs. But then the other thing that's happened to me since graduating was that I find that I'm very fascinated about neural networks and how the brain works. And I'm seeing if I can sort of flip-flop my degree and go for a PhD in neurosciences. So I may be going back to school in the next year. It just depends, because right now I'm not totally broke, but I've squeezed all of my assets to pay for an education again. And I'm kind of hoping I can get a scholarship. I'm looking at some programs at Heidelberg right now. I have a small organic pie shop, and it pays for all of my needs and my son's needs. But what I'm really looking at doing is starting up a tech company, working on our stellar cartography program and getting that finished so that we can lease it out to companies like Orion or SpaceX or NASA. And I have some wonderful people that are a million times more brilliant than me that have a couple of
And they're still blown away by the things you share with them.
Well, they're very tolerant of me because of my experience. When Stevie there,
Yeah.
when I was returned, I have an off-world experience, bro. I was taken to the tourist system in a massive ship, and I'm just a regular guy. I was in the wine trade for 30 years as a professional. I did very well. I speak 3 different languages fluently, and I'm still working on my Chinese and my Russian. But I spent 12 years in Europe. I've traveled to 32 different countries, and I also have a master's degree from Fresno State in enology because I used to be a winemaker. I'm 58. And so I'm going from one career to the next, and I'm finding it pretty interesting that I've done all right. But if we can just get this stellar cartography program going, then I know that we'll be able to generate a larger pool of revenue so that we can get some other really interesting stuff going. Everything that I have that I've been working on and sharing with my friends from NASA and SpaceX is stuff that they gave me. And I had to go back to school to validate to myself that the quantum mathematics and the Green's functions and the higher aspects of higher mathematics and quantum mathematics were real, and that it wasn't just a dream. Even though this was a 4-day event, I was removed for 4 hours from this planet, and each hour was a day. And when they brought me back, they had given me everything. They'd already downloaded the 5 kinematic equations and Euler's formula and Maxwell's theory, and they downloaded, everything from the theory of rotational and angular kinematics to the 4 laws of thermodynamics, including the
Well,
zero.
let me ask you this question.
So I didn't know. Well, I was just trying to say to Steve, I'll shut up in a second. What I was trying to say was I didn't know what any of this stuff was. And so I actually went to school, and some friends at SpaceX helped me get a scholarship because I fell within that group of older white guys that didn't have a good enough education.
So you got these
I only had to pay
downloads
for my books.
and then went to school just to validate that what you already know. You think
Oh,
that,
yeah. No,
okay, now
when
hold
I was,
on. So here's
Steve,
my next question is that somehow I believe that you may already possess those downloads, or instead of going to school, your buddy KG will probably just give you what you want and activate whatever triggers you need. And then if you feel like you need to go to school to validate what you think you already know, I think you got it backwards, buddy. I think you're already gifted with the information.
That's very interesting that you should say that, because I came into quantum theory from the top down. See, I didn't go through the traditional higher geometry, physics, power series, the trig, and the calculus. I came in from the top of the Mandelbrot and looked down in whole group, what's called whole group determinism, and then I was able to decipher and work my way down into physics from the top down, and it blew my professors away. I graduated at the top of my class, but I got everything in backwards.
Maybe you could explain like quantum gravity to me one night.
Don't get him started right now. We've only got
I'd be happy to.
I would be on that call if you could go through quantum gravity. So this is curious because I'm having a meeting Sunday with a guy. I've never met him. He's supposedly a secret space program awakener, remembers his experiences, and he's been downloaded a new physics. a completely new physics, a new, like the whole ball of wax, right?
Brother, I totally am going to say, I bet he did. I bet they did, because I got one as well. And this is the idea behind linearized nomenclature.
This is very curious to me. Like, there's just so many things crossing my path constantly right now, and I'm trying to make heads or tails out of it. I mean,
those are not coincidences.
No, there are no coincidences. I guarantee you. There are very few people in the world that I could bump into that could be this, right? And to have this guy crossing my path today and this guy crossing my path Sunday, who invited me to come, he wants to talk to me. It's a very strange path right now, right? I don't know where it's going. It's just a lot of fun, but I have no idea where it's going. I thought that I would be doing something one day technically again, but it's never worked out. So it's just been completely spiritual for 10 years for me, and organic. So I had an organic farm. Your organic pies were another little, like, one of those little beep, beep, beep. Let's see how many times we can tap you and see if we catch your attention, kind of thing.
Right.
Anyway, it's a lot of fun. A lot of fun. You have no idea. Yeah, I'm like the fool in tarot. I'm just always stepping off the cliff, and I just keep stepping. So it all works out, but I never know where it's going. It's a lot of fun.
Higher mathematics just certain symbols can attenuate and unlock ancient memories or genetic triggers. Our mind has been developing as a Homo habilis for probably 125 million years. There are avenues, directions, and storage capacities within our cerebral cortex and both cerebrum that are absolutely astonishing. We can hold vast amounts of information. And we're being triggered right now so that we can start accessing those higher aspects of our cognition and cognitive capabilities, because they need us to put the pieces together so that we can speak in a very common sense language that all humans will resonate with.
Right. Yeah,
and in order to
remembering, that's all.
Right. And in order to access those cognitive understandings of the human language and getting the vibration and the tonal quality right when we're trying to communicate an idea to other humans, in order to get them to be receptive. They don't have to like or resonate what we're saying, but if we can just get people to calm down and stop and ponder about a brighter future based on a higher intellect that has nothing to do with mainstream science. It's learning to teach each other to access the higher functioning centers of our own minds so that we can actually live and feel the experience of what I am always saying is that thoughts are things. And so when you think something, you create that reality by the very toroidal field that your body generates. You can change the dimensionality of your reality by tape looping certain thoughts. It's like people that go, oh, look, I just see this toy on television. And, I was going to do that toy and launch it 10 years ago, and look, someone else has done it. So it's not just the 100th monkey idea. It's more like we can create the reality that we want to see by the thoughts that we maintain. And so I'm very careful about the thoughts that I maintain. And I run concurrently a couple of algorithms just for my maths programs in the back of my mind. But at the same time, I'm very conscientious about the words that I use in the thinking process of other people in my life. So when somebody comes to me and they're a mess, I don't immediately react to the mess. I react with compassion and go, oh my goodness, my poor soul, my poor friend, or my beautiful soul who's in trouble, how can I help? So it's just changing the very simple dialogue that we have with ourselves helps to build a foundation to understand how we may translate the power of the human mind to the very physical surroundings around us. I manifested a beautiful bakery with a Zen garden in a 120-year-old building right on the beach for $50,000.
Nice.
And that was my life savings. And the business is booming. I've been open for almost 10 years now. And I've been educating people about neurochemistry, emotional chemistry, and food chemistry, and how things like BHA, BHT, monosodium glutamate, and TBHQ, tertiary butylated hydroquinone, how things like that change us genetically when you feed them to your baby.
Yeah.
So we're in a place now where people are sort of snapping out of it. And that's why the powers that be that are constantly producing fear-mongering programs like there's an asteroid that's going to hit the Earth, or we have a new monkey virus, or there's a war in Russia, and, all the hyperbole that the evil forces try and whip up so that everybody's distracted. But really, it's not working anymore because we're a different type of human. We cannot be fooled, and we use our minds in a different way than they do so that they can't affect us. So when you think that way about your mind and allow your mind to be as free as possible, you're definitely going to be bringing some interesting characters into your life. In fact, I would really like to show you this new maths language that they showed me. And if you want to get my email address from Lowell,
Sure.
after the show, then I'll send you some photographs that are going to knock your socks off of this new mathematics model program I'm developing. I've been working on it for 6 years.
Wow.
Yeah, it's very cool.
Yeah.
But I would like to share that with you because then you're going to go, okay, this is the second part of what David was talking about. Because there's a dimensionality that exists within all higher physics. And what I've discovered is that all higher physics has a higher dimensionality, a higher geometry. Every formula produces a unique geometric shape. And you can express functions of formulas through 3-dimensional and 4-dimensional geometry.
Yeah. I think it's all geometry, right? I think it's all sacred.
Absolutely.
At its core.
Absolutely.
It all folds back into that, right?
Right. I mean, just look at the Mandelbrot, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just the shape itself.
Right.
So there's another Mandelbrot that connects to the one that we work with that we haven't discovered yet. But when we realize the depth of the geometry that's involved in all mathematics, it will reveal itself to us, and we'll be able to produce dimensional gateways and attenuate wormholes and things like that. That's the next step.
I think it's a step into the precise from the approximations, right?
Right.
So our equations, although they were incredibly complex, they were just, when you get into the truth is so precise and then obvious, right? Like then pure.
Right. It's so elegant.
Doesn't require any plugs or
right.
It's very cool.
Yeah, that's the beautiful thing about, imperial or empirical evidence. It doesn't mean that people in mainstream science refuse to understand or go along with metaphysics and esoteric studies. It's just that we like to see some proof, and
I think this is scientific. I think everything.
Well, absolutely. I'm talking about the other half.
We just don't understand the physics yet. But it's I'm a scientist, right?
Right.
What I'm experiencing is real. That tells me that there is a real explanation for what I'm experiencing, right?
Right.
So it's just a matter of discovering that. It's learning how to quantify the multidimensional experience. That's what we haven't done.
It's beautiful. I'm really happy to get a chance to speak to you because I have some wonderful friends who are like you, who are very intuitive, and we'll talk in the future, I'm sure. And what we'll do is we'll talk about visceral cognition.
I've also had some abduction experiences.
No way.
That I'd like to talk to you about too. So I'd like to see. I don't completely understand what it happened to me, but it's happened twice that I remember, right? So anyway, it's just another thing it's almost like a periphery thing for me. Like
Mhm.
I'm very focused on healing and helping people right now, and doing psychic work. I don't mind the term psychic, but doing metaphysical work. But the UFO experiences I have all the time. I see ships all the time, but I've had at least 2 interactions in the last
Great.
10 years. Yeah. So
The last 2 interactions, were they physical? Did they hold your hand? Were you in physical distance?
okay, so I'll very briefly, because I know this is probably going toward the end. I've had craft very close, but I've had 2 times where they've interacted with me. One, we were walking from our house in Texas to our barn, daylight, broad daylight, had 4 dogs with us. As we're walking along, I'm an aerospace engineer, right? So I see an aircraft out of my peripheral vision. I immediately panic because it's big, and I think that airplane's in trouble. That's just like a quick flash in my head. Should not be where I'm seeing it.
Right.
I look up and focus, it has no wings, right?
Right.
And it's not moving.
Forgive me for laughing. I know I
Yeah,
totally understand.
Yeah. So I'm like, what the is that, right?
Right.
And then so here's what happened. I wouldn't have even known I was taken, except we had 4 dogs with us. We're walking. I look up and I turn to my partner and I go, what the heck is that? She starts to turn and look, and then we're all back in roughly the same place, except 1 dog.
Uh-oh.
So they got 3 out of 4 dogs back. And so we're just still walking. So we're walking, and I'm like, where's Willis? Willis is the 4th dog. Well, Willis went from there to locked in the house.
Uh-huh.
Right? There was some kind of glitch. They didn't get him. Then they put him back someplace where he would stay, which was a house, but it wasn't where he would belonged, right? So from that, I looked at the time real quick. We had lost like 20 minutes. It was just gone. Like we knew what time we walked out of the house, and it was like we went 2 minutes and it was 20 something minutes later, right? So I was like, okay, obviously we were taken. I tried to meditate to go back, and I'm like wiped. Like I remember blue, a lot of blue, and it was just everything else. I know that's accessible. Like I feel like if I went through a hypnosis session or something like that, I feel like that can be retrieved.
Okay. I have a very special relationship with them. And
great. I'd like
it's
questions for me. But this
I've got to share some photos with you. They allow me to take pictures. I have pictures of them, and I have pictures of the interior of the craft, and there's a lot of blue.
Well, this was a cigar shape, like an aircraft with no wings, really, like shiny. And it also dematerialized. So what I've been able to remember seeing it come and seeing it go. And when it went, it was just there, and it slowly started to move, and then it just went away. It just it just sprinkled out, right? Like fuzzed out kind of thing, right? I don't know. That's all I can remember that one. The second one was here in North Carolina after we moved here. I see tons of craft here. Basically, if I meditate with the intent to them, then I see them. I can see 5, 10 a night sometime, like a lot of craft, right?
Right.
So I was here meditating one night. I was just laying on our outdoor table here in our deck, looking, and I saw a craft, which wasn't that unusual. And I was blessing it, sending love to it and stuff like that. Yeah. And they flash me and stuff, I mean, we interact, but this was different.
I hope Steve gets finish that thought.
Well, it's what happens because we're all being watched by our friends above, but we're also being watched by the chickens that run the government. There he is.
Yeah. So I don't know. So then what happened with this one? It was dusk, lights getting bigger and bigger and bigger. All of a sudden, very dark. So I'm still laying on the table, but time again has fast forwarded about 30 minutes or something like that from when I went out, right? So I also know that government has a lot of craft, like the US government has a lot of craft. And I've always been suspicious of both of these of being actually government craft, which I have
I
a
know
little
that.
background on too.
Yeah, there's been a lot of stuff that the hypersonic stuff that they released from Skunk Works about 7 or 8 years ago. We made a deal with BAE over in the UK, and right now Brussels found out about the EU, and Brussels found out about these hypersonic missile tests and hypersonic crafts, and they banned them. So in 2017, BAE Systems and the British Air Force, the Ministry of Air Defense, signed a deal with the then base commander of, I think it's Richardson Air Force Base. Commander Todd Dyer's there now. Todd's a good guy. They've moved their program, but we have hypersonic flights all the time, and these are alpha stuff. This goes from one to 10,000 miles an hour within 6 seconds. Wow. And so, yeah, they're fast, and they're, above atmosphere, high altitude, lower orbit. They return, they zip around, and they scare the shit out of people. But they're not, because you know what? Those ones actually have a green and red light on the bottom of them, and it keeps the military from shooting them down. And they always have a green and red light. When you can get close enough to the bottom of one of our crafts, it'll always have a green and red light. And the guys from Alpha Centauri or the group from the Vega or whoever else is visiting, they don't have lights like that, but they do have lights.
I don't talk to anything with nav lights. So if I see nav lights, I don't interact, right?
Right. That's the way to be, because we have to have those lights on there. Otherwise, they'll get targeted by France, Germany, or Russia. The G8 is all in collusion with this whole program, so they know what they've got.
Sure.
And, it's just an unfortunate thing that's going on. I can't wait to talk to you. I have some very wonderful news for you and some special information to share with you that'll help you maybe cognate your experience so that you're a little emotionally more comfortable with it. Are you having any sadness in your life right now? Did something go wrong?
No.
Okay.
I have a baby on the way, so I'm 59. This is like the boomers rebirth class or something.
No, because
we're all coming out of the woodwork and turning into these different creatures all of a sudden, right? Anyway, so I have a being that asked me to bring it in that my partner's expecting. It's actually the second being that's asked me to bring it in. I have a 2-year-old son. I have 30-something-year-old sons, and then I have these 2 very young ones, both of which I consciously brought in and both of which asked me to bring them in. So It's a much different experience. And the new one coming in is a first-time incarnation on Earth of a crystalline being. It literally feels like a crystal in her belly to me. I've never felt anything like it. It feels completely different than the child that I brought in 2 years ago, which is an amazing creature, amazing psychic creature. But
do you know who Mary Rodwell is?
No.
Okay, I'm going to connect you to Mary Rodwell, because she started out as a wet nurse for the British government. She lives in Australia now. She's interviewed probably 10,000 parents that have star children that speak in star languages, coming from the age of 1 year old, that children are cogent of the English language and start speaking clearly. So, and they have larger eyes and they have more delicate feelings, and they know more about us than we know about ourselves. And so I'm going to connect you with Mary, because you need to talk to her.
Yeah, because
She's
this being coming in is completely different, feels completely different than any being I've ever sat that close to, right? And it's still separated from me. But like my previous son that's 2 years old, I had many lives with him. I remember them. Past lives have really just become very easy for me to access, and timelines are very easy for me to play with. But so with this first new child that wanted to come in, it was very much someone who'd been here many times, and I'd worked with many times in Egypt and many places, and I knew this was my teacher coming in. I knew when he contacted me, it was a really important teacher that worked with me very closely through many different iterations of what we do, and he was coming in now to do this. When the second one asked to come in, none of that. No connection to me at all, had no background with me at all, had no background with Earth at all, but was needed to come in now, like now, right? And was looking for a conscious port to dock. Right?
Nope, that makes total sense.
Yeah.
There's a need right now to open up the experience of life for a lot of souls who have a mission to learn about. See, the special thing about this dimension, and why I'm trying to get a lot of the brothers and sisters who are teaching people to understand higher dimensions, don't be in too much of a rush to leave this one, because they are trying to come here to experience love. They are trying to come here to experience animals and waterfalls and flowers. So don't be in too much of a rush to disappear. This is one of the greatest dimensions of all.
Believe me. I had that moment in my life when I was meditating, and I had the opportunity, and I realized I came here for a reason. I don't want to pop out. I came here to do this.
Right.
And I was like, get your butt back in there and get to work. You know?
Sure.
Like, I thought I wanted enlightenment, right? And I got right there at the door, and I was like, this isn't what I want. This isn't why I'm here.
Well, you got enlightenment.
Yeah,
that's why you have this frame of reference.
It's different though. Like, I really was becoming all of everything. Like, I was one with the table. I was one with everything. I was becoming very much outside of this. And I was like, I knew I had the choice of either going one of two ways. You can go the I am nothing, or you can go the I am everyone.
Everything. Yeah.
And I chose the one, I am everyone. But I could have gone the I am nothing. I could have just gone into void. And I was like, no, I need love. I'm here to love. I'm here to change the world. Get back in there, get to work.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Just,
I'm in no hurry. I'm in no hurry to do anything other than what I'm here to do, which is work with the earth primarily, which is work with the earth and work with people. So
wonderful. Wonderful.
I'm really looking forward to getting to know you. You're a blessing to come across my path, so it's great.
Oh, my friend, I'm gonna introduce you to all of the special people, all the special species that I know. I'm gonna send them over your house.
Awesome.
And
awesome.
Yeah, you have no idea what you're in store for.
I'll love them.
Yeah, you're gonna love these guys. They resonate with love, and when they leave you, you feel overwhelmed with love and compassion. And they're the ones that are sort of like the ancient watchers. They've been looking out over us for millennia, trying to guide us in the right direction and protecting us in ways that we'll never imagine. And they love us very much. And you're helping them because they need to connect to you in order to understand what they lost in their ancient corporeal life. Human beings are channels for love and for deeper cognition of things like compassion and forgiveness. And to them, they understand what those things are, but they're more of a process or a function of a memory, rather than understanding the electrochemical response from your own emotional chemicals. So when they're in your company, they feel those things that change our lives, and it helps them to connect to you, and it helps them connect to their ancient past. So it's a beautiful, beautiful exchange.
I have some spirit guides that are really a future version of me. It's complicated, but they also are back here to work with me because of a whole bunch of stuff that's going on. But they're part of a collective. They go by Bob, but it's beyond Orion's belt, this particular group that I'm talking about. But we have we're in the magic. We're in the magic zone, right? Like of the whole package. They've lost part of the package. They gave up some things possibly and are regretting those decisions.
Yeah,
Right.
that's what they want to connect back with us. Or when
Yeah,
I
I know
talk
about
about
this.
our emotions and our
Yes.
creativity that comes from that,
Yes.
that's what they lack. They've moved on to
Right.
more logical things. They see
Right.
duality, but they've gone beyond.
What they're looking for are feelings, right? So emotions are
Yes.
feelings with stories wrapped around them. They don't want emotions. They want to feel. They want to feel love.
Mhm.
They want to
Vibration.
not the
They
way that
communicate
not
by
the
vibration.
story that we tell ourselves about what love is. That's this, I'm going to have a, the romantic love stuff. This is real agape type love, like real, just pure love, right? So that's what they're
Right.
looking for. They're looking for all those kind of experiences. It's the same reason why Source created the whole shebang, right? It wants to experience the things that Source can't experience when there's not other. There has to be other
Right.
to experience that, to experience
Yes.
to experience a feeling, right? You can't have a feeling when you are both sides of the equation. You have to have the forgetting, you have to have the veil, that kind of stuff, right? So
Contrast.
they are very much looking for, because of that source impulse, that desire of what they're becoming more in touch with themselves. We are not the only one changing right now. We feel like
Right.
this is a first story, but this is a big story that's going across. I don't know how big of a space, our galaxy, I don't know, but a lot of things are upgrading right now. This is the magic time. This is when all the
Everything
Yeah.
is in a period of evolution. Everything.
I think so.
We're not the only things evolving.
Yes, I think so. I think it's everything, every planet. You look at how the planets are changing right now. I mean,
It's
Yep.
all cyclical.
changing. The
I know.
temperature.
Have you seen, hey, Steve, have you seen what's going on with Neptune and their polar ice caps and the color?
Right.
What
So
the
all of
fuck?
these things that have been constants forever since we
Right.
had a telescope, all of a sudden they just look completely different, right? I mean,
Right.
this is not a normal time.
No, it's a time of galactic ascension.
It's
And
galactic, I
it's
think
there,
so too. And
there's events.
this sun cycle is, of course, very interesting. And
Yes.
the magnetosphere is dropping, and a lot of things. These little G-class flares now can become very big deals, like X-class flares, right? When you have less umbrella over you to protect you. So things are going to change. It has always worked this way. These big cycles, these are normal cycles. We're panicky because, I haven't seen this in the 200 years we've been actually understanding how the sun works. But
I know nobody wants to use the MN word, and I'm going to say it. It's the sun has been accreting carbon for 12,000 years, and if you look at the work by guys like Professor Pierre Robitaille, who's been pushing this theory about the sun's surface being made out of liquid metallic hydrogen, he's not far off. When you look at the granular close-ups, when Soho does a close-up of the sun's surface, you see the flamey granulation, and then you see a spot which is very dark. Well, that blackness below the photaic granulation is actually boiling hot liquid carbon. And what happens every time there's a solar prominence is those photaic releases and the gamma radiations release, but all of that carbon comes back and laminates on the surface of the sun. And I'm sorry, it's got to release it, and that's why the sun's gone white instead of being yellow.
You saw Beetlejuice, right?
The movie about
the planet had a huge mass.
Of course,
it just blew off a sun. It just blew off enough mass.
Yeah, that's a micronova. That's a micronova. And what's been happening if you go
beyond micro, forget about the idea of nova and stuff. This is something completely new.
Right.
Like a coronal this is the actual surface pulling off of the sun and just blowing out enough mass to create. I mean, Betelgeuse, the sun, the star is as big as to Jupiter, right? Like if it set it on top of our sun, it would reach to Jupiter. That's how big the sun is, right? As this star is, right? And it just blew off something way bigger than our sun. And that's happening right now. I mean, we're seeing it right now, at least, but it's a crazy thing, never seen before. I mean, there's some weird stuff happening at a planet level, at a star level, at every level, plus in here, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Right.
there's a lot of stuff going down right now. I can tell you that.
Hey, how's Patricia doing? Are you still hanging in there?
She's on her way to Disney.
Here. This has been so enlightening. I'm enjoying both of your conversations, so thank you for sharing.
I wanted to make sure you knew we were thinking about you.
Yeah, no, I'm enjoying every ounce of the conversation, and I love educating myself on, different perspectives, and also aligning to those perspectives as well, and feeling that in a heart space level. So no, I'm really enjoying this. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to sit in tonight.
Yeah, this has been amazing, Lowell. I want to hand it back to Lowell because I'm going to have to start cooking my dog's dinner pretty soon.
Well, we need to wrap it up. I really want to keep these to like 90 minutes. And when we get to like the 75-minute mark, I just want to be mindful because we can go on. See how just one thing leads to another, but it was meant to do that. It was meant to kind of bring illumination to those things that, when we let flow go, look at what got revealed. So new connections were made. Patricia got to see what this part of the tribe is like. So Patricia, before we knock off, let's communicate later just by messaging, and we'll find a time when we can spend a little more one-on-one together. Now you got an idea of what the boys are like. And when I say the boys, the tribe in the orbit is huge. And you just got a taste of me and Dave tonight and a little spice with Steve. There are many more like this. And so it's good when we all get together and kind of get to fine tune the things that we've all had questions about, because each one of us helps bring clarity to the others. And it was fascinating. The target was we were going to talk about dimensionality. And in the end, when we got to about the top of the 1 hour point, Dave was actually giving his perspective on the scientific part of it. So, and that was an aspect that it wasn't that I failed to look at it, but I don't spend much time there. I'm in the physical presence part of it. So it's always good for me to see a wider perspective. And that's what Dave got to deliver tonight. So I'm grateful for that. So with that, I think I'm going to end here. This will be up on the podcast networks like Spotify and Amazon, like by tonight. And then I'll put the video file up so it'll be on my channel on YouTube tomorrow. I've got a couple others to add. There was an interview I did with Kara Goodwin last week that kind of went through. It was the one when I listened back to it, I finally had enough perspective on what the hell really happened in Telos for me to connect all those dots. And that was good. So there's about 75 minutes of that I'm going to package up and put out there, because of all the ones I've listened to, it's the one that meant the most, that had more of it connected. Because when people hear about my Telos experience, and I don't want to take away from how miraculous that was, I now understand that wasn't for me to tell about the story of Telos to make it magic so that all of you that are drawn to Lemuria's Telos have a touchstone for it. Hell no. It was for me to explain to you that was my first multidimensional experience of a few more I've had. So just get ready for that kind of phenomenon. You all resonate at the same vibration level that I do, which means that you have the same thing inside of you to have the same experience as I had. Steve got to share a couple already. Dave's had a few of his. We're going to get into Patricia's here soon. But it's great to hear the feedback and be in a place where we can have these discussions, where we don't think that somebody's going to shut us down and we have to deal with somebody's drama because they don't get it. So we'll continue to do these until everybody gets it. So thanks for all being here. We'll be online again Sunday morning, 9 o'clock Pacific. You're always welcome to jump in. And then Thursday, we'll be back here. We'll spin the wheel and see what topic we get. So thanks for participating. I'll see you all then, guys. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you
Patricia.
all.
Thanks, David.
You bet. Make sure Steve gets my phone number, okay?
Will do.
Thanks, bro. Bye, guys.